2017 was a big year for gaming, and 2018 was even bigger. With so many games coming out, it was hard to keep track of them all. Luckily, I played a lot more newer games this year than I did last year, so this time I'll be going over my top 10 games of 2018. Keep in mind, I'll only be going over games that I played, so if your favorite isn't on the list, that may be why. I'll also be excluding HD remasters and ports of games from previous years. However, remakes are fair game. Anyways, here we go. Honorable mention. Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn. After a successful Indiegogo campaign that I backed, Shaq is back in a new game, in this sequel, reboot, reimagining of the original game from back in the 90s. A Legend Reborn is a different game from the original, as this one is a beat-em-up. As Shaq, you make your way through several different levels, beating up parodies of pop culture icons and powering up with tie-in brands. As a beat-em-up, it's pretty average, but it's just so refreshing to see more of these. The game does have flaws. The later levels are way too long, the graphics are kind of bland, and there's still quite a bit of glitches. Sadly, the developers have gone silent on updates and the community, where I still haven't received the DLC for life I was promised. I had to purchase another copy of the game for Switch before I could play the Barack Fu DLC. Despite its flaws, I enjoyed Shaq Fu: A Legend Reborn enough to make it an honorable mention. Honorable mention. Sonic Mania Plus. I know I said no ports, but this is an exception. I missed out on Sonic Mania back in 2017, partially because I wanted a physical version. Then in July of 2018, I got myself a Nintendo Switch as a 30th birthday present to myself, and with it I got a few games. The first game I played was Sonic Mania Plus. Now because this game technically came out in 2017, I couldn't include it in the main list, but I still have quite a bit to say about this game because it is amazing. With the variety of gameplay modes, the amazing pixel graphics, and the fantastic soundtrack, you can tell it's a labor of love. Hell, they even fixed my favorite Sonic 2 level, Chemical Plant. Now it's not complete bullshit anymore. If you're familiar with Sonic, you already knew about this game, but if you're not, this is a great place to start, and it's absolutely wonderful. Number 10. Dragon Ball FighterZ. I have been thirsty for a 2D style Dragon Ball fighting game ever since Dragon Ball Z Infinite World, and after the disappointment that was Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, there was also a thirst for a tag team fighter. Thank God for Dragon Ball FighterZ. It takes the classic gameplay of old-school DBZ games like Hyper Dimension and Super Botoden, and mixes it with the fast-paced tag team combat of the Marvel vs. Capcom series. The game is something for both Dragon Ball and fighting game fans, and is simply a treasure. Everything from the combat, sounds, music, voice work, and presentation is amazing. I mean, how the hell did they get 3D and 2D to mix so well? I think the animators on the Broly movie could learn a thing or two from Arc System Works. One of the best fighting games in years. If you're a hardcore fighting game fan, you gotta check this out. Number 9. Persona 3, Dancing in Moonlight. Well guys, I finally did it. I beat a Persona game. A Persona dancing game, that is. One of these days I'll beat one of the Shin Megami Tensei RPGs, but for now, Persona 3, Dancing in Moonlight is as good as I've done. I'm warming up to rhythm games, and this one is a great one for beginners like me. But this is more than just a dancing game. It also contains the social links like the main Persona games. So fans of both Persona and rhythm games will enjoy this one. There's also a lot of customization with several different costumes and so much more. Whether you're a Persona fan, rhythm game fan, or just a gamer curious about Persona, this is not a bad choice. And if you're a fan of Persona 4 or 5, last year's Persona 4 Dancing All Night, or same day release Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight should suffice. Number 8. Celeste. Last year was a big year for indie games, one of the breakout hits being Celeste. It's a screen-by-screen puzzle platformer with a deep story. If you played other styled indie games, it requires problem solving to find proper ways to pass each screen. The story for this game is much deeper than most platformers, and is a great motivator for progressing through the game. While the game is difficult, most stages can be cleared simply by trial and error of different methods, so it won't turn off players, like me, who aren't puzzle gurus. If you want a fun and challenging game with a fantastic story, you can believe the hype on this one. Celeste is fantastic and much more than it appears to be. Number 7. The Messenger. I'm late to the party on The Messenger, but for Christmas, my pal Shadowsnake123 bought it for me on Steam, so a special shout out to him. Thanks, pal! This game is the retro-style game I've been looking for, a fast-paced action platformer with minimal backtracking and upgrades. Fans of classic ninja games like Ninja Gaiden and Shinobi will get a kick out of this, and it definitely feels like those games. If you're a fan of retro-style platformers, and you're tired of every platformer being a roguelike or a massive dungeon crawl, this game is for you. Number 6. Galgun 2. I've become a huge fan of indie creates and their games. Mega Man 10, Azure Striker Gunvolt, and Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, just to name a few of my favorites. That being said, Galgun 2 scratched that rail shooter itch I've been feeling for a while. I got this on the Switch because I heard it used the Joy-Con motion controls. Sadly, they don't work as well as I thought, and it makes the game kind of hard to control. But I was impressed with how easy and intuitive this controls with the control sticks, something that usually turns me off on newer rail shooters. On top of shooting your love at every girl in the school, there's tons of side quests and interactions, including with Neighbor Girl, where you get your upgrades. If you've been looking for a great rail shooter and don't mind the overly perverted storyline, give this one a shot. It's fun as hell. Number 5. Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon. Speaking of indie creates, Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon is something I didn't know I wanted. A retro throwback to Castlevania that improves on the side-scrolling platformer. I won't go too far in depth as I already reviewed this game back in October, so I'll keep this brief. The gameplay is fun and feels like an improved version of Castlevania 3. The presentation is awesome and the music and sound are both fantastic. If you're a fan of retro throwbacks, this comes highly recommended. Number 4. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. I had a ton of fun playing through Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. It's basically a full 3D remake of Pokemon Yellow that I've been craving ever since I got my hands on Pokemon Stadium back in the 90s. I had so much fun with this game, I've actually almost completed the Pokédex. That'll be the first time I've done this since my first playthrough of Pokemon Red. Now this game has been getting a lot of negative feedback, mostly because longtime fans are upset about the slimmed down gameplay, or that it's too much like Pokemon Go. First of all, this is not a sequel to Pokemon Go. This is a full 3D remake of Pokemon Yellow with Pokemon Go elements. Of course, the biggest criticism is that the wild battles are now replaced with the Pokemon Go style catching mechanics. At first, I wasn't a fan of this, but then I realized it works really well and gains your party experience, so it improves the grinding problem some Pokemon games have. I will say the capturing is not perfect, especially when trying to capture at an angle in TV mode, and the lack of touchscreen input when capturing in handheld mode is perplexing considering that's how it worked in Pokemon Go. The removal of some features is also a problem. IV and EV training is gone, as is breeding, which is where a lot of criticism comes from, as well as the difficulty being generally lower. But to me, this game was still fun and wasn't too hand-holding. If you want to go back to a simpler time when the only goal was to catch them all, this one comes highly recommended. It's wonderful and fantastic, and a nostalgia trip all the way through. Number 3. Mega Man 11. Ever since this got announced back in December 2017, I have been excited, but cautious. I wasn't sure how the dual gear system was going to work, and I was getting a Mighty No. 9 vibe from the trailer, but I was still excited. When I finally got my hands on it, many of my reservations were put to rest. Mega Man 11 is a fantastic entry to the series, and I played the crap out of it. The game is not too difficult, well, until the Wily stages, but that's to be expected. And even when I did have trouble, I just gave it another try and got a little further each time. The 2-gear system works really well as well, you know, when I remember to use it. But that's my fault, not the game's. I will say, some of the stages are a little long, but it just felt so good that I couldn't stop playing. I have yet to finish the game, and I do plan to do a full review of the game in 2019, once I've completed it a few times. Mega Man 11 comes incredibly recommended, whether you're a seasoned Mega Man fan or new to the series. But wait, you might say, Zero, how is this only your 3rd favorite game of the year? Well, number 2. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. 2014 Smash for 3DS and Wii U were my favorites in the series since the original on N64. Now we have Ultimate, and it has taken the number 1 spot for me. There's just so much great about this game. The complete roster of previous fighters, so many new modes of play, new competitive strategies such as the dodge system and final smash meters, the new single-player campaign in World of Light mode, and just the amount of customization available in this game. Online is much improved. Yes, there still is some slowdown, but it's nowhere near as bad as Brawl or Smash Wii U. I didn't think it could get any better than the last game, but they frickin' knocked it out of the park with a grand slam. I know this game has only been out for a couple months, but I love it that much. And usually I'm a more casual player of Smash, but this game has opened me up to more competitive things I've been resistant to because of the toxic Melee competitive scene. I don't care how great you say it is. Melee is a buggy mess and uses glitches and bugs to become quote-unquote competitive. In any case, I'm excited to play more matches, whether it be messing around with friends or 1v1 matches to test my skills. Also, all stages, all items on often. Fight me. Number 1. Monster Hunter World. I've been a fan of the Monster Hunter series since the first game dropped on the PS2. While it is one of my favorite game series of all time, it's always been very cumbersome and not friendly to newbies. Over the years, many improvements have been made, but it was still the same broken engine with the same issues. But holy crap! In comes Monster Hunter World to overhaul nearly everything, making for a much better and newcomer-friendly experience that I have had a hard time putting down. Nearly everything in this game has been an improvement over the previous ones, whether it be simple stuff like tracking monsters to things like gathering items. You see that? I just gathered in like a split second. That's amazing. Not only has gathering gotten easier, but now each map is full and open. No more zoning between areas, everything is connected. Combat is also satisfying as it's always been and plays butter smooth. The gameplay experience is even more smooth if you play it on a PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, or high-end gaming PC, maintaining a solid 60 frames per second or better detail if that's what you prefer. The game is lacking in the amount of monsters compared to other games in the series, but Monster Hunter Tri did the same thing, focusing mostly on new monsters, and that one was just as good. Many like myself have lamented the fact that G-Rank is not yet in the game, but tempered and arc-tempered monsters are a nice caveat to it. That doesn't even go over the amount of extra and event content that keeps getting rolled out into the game, as well as new quest types such as Sieges, which is the series' first foray into raiding. I knew this was my game of the year when I kept coming back to it, even after not playing it for a while, just to take on new content and do stuff I hadn't done yet. I've already clocked over 150 hours into this one, and I foresee more getting clocked in when the first major expansion drops in 2019. All in all, Monster Hunter World is the best game in the series, and if you've never played, now is the time to check it out, and I promise you will not regret it. What were your top games in 2018? Leave me a comment down below and let me know. I didn't play everything that came out this year. I missed big games like Spider-Man and God of War, for example. So I'm always happy to look for even more games to play. If you like this video, consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell to get notifications. A huge shout out to my backers on Patreon, and if you'd like to keep up to date with my videos, be sure to follow me on Facebook at Zeromaster fanpage, follow me on Twitter at Zeromaster, back me on Patreon for early access to videos, behind the scenes content, and much more. And of course, you can follow me on Twitch if you'd like to watch me play games when I stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you're still looking for some videos to watch, here are some videos from my friends. Give them a watch and tell them I sent you. Anyways guys, thanks so much for watching this year, and I hope to bring even more great content in 2019.